Welcome to Montage Microchurch Network, where we are making disciples by loving Jesus and loving people. This series will explore the letters Paul wrote to churches while he was in prison: Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, and Colossians. Join us while we wrestle with and apply these amazing letters to our lives. Good morning, fam. We're in our 12th week of the book of Galatians, and we're close to finishing. Only one more section after this one. And Paul comes into this closing with a principle that's so simple that God built it into creation itself: sowing and reaping. It's one of the first things you learn as a kid, even if you're not even trying to. Right? If you plant a pumpkin seed, you get pumpkins. You don't plant a pumpkin seed and wake up to a Ferrari or a golden retriever or a six-pack of LaCroix. You get pumpkins. It's the natural world, and we all get it. Spiritually, though, we act like we're different, like we're the exception. But Paul's saying, nope, you're not the exception. What you sow is what you're gonna reap. Here's how Paul kind of describes it. Every day, everywhere you go, you're reaching into one of two buckets. Bucket one is the flesh. This bucket holds everything in us that pushes against God: anger and pride and selfishness, envy, lust, bitterness, irritability, complaining, all the stuff we don't even have to try to produce. Bucket two, the Spirit. That produces love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and gentleness and faithfulness and self-control, all the things we learned about at the end of the last chapter of Galatians. The kind of life that makes people breathe a little easier when you walk in the room. And Paul says there are only these two buckets. There's no neutral bucket. You're always sowing somewhere into someone. Now, I am not a gardener. I'm a let's get rid of all the plants except for the grass. And for that matter, Mo, what do you think about artificial turf for the yard type of person? I mean, sometimes I have great aspirations to grow vegetables like my dad did when I was a kid. Man, I would walk to or from the school bus, I'd grab a few peas off the vine, or a cherry tomato, or even pull a carrot out from the ground and eat them as I walked. Now, I don't seem to have the time or the passion to make vegetable gardens work. I've tried, but usually end up fertilizing the weeds that I don't end up pulling. Growing a good garden, it takes intentional time, it takes sowing seed, pulling weeds, watering, and this is the principle that Paul's getting at. You reap what you sow spiritually. Now, most of the time, sowing, it's subtle. It's how we speak to our spouse when we're tired. It's what we say or we don't say to our kids. It's the tone we bring into the room. It's what we think no one else sees. It's the habits that we repeat. It's the attitude we choose before we even open our mouth. And Paul's saying, pay attention. You are planting something. And then he says something strong. He says, don't be deceived. God is not mocked. Meaning what? Meaning nobody outsmarts God. Nobody rigs the system here. Nobody hacks sowing and reaping. But we all try. We all have moments where we just tell ourselves, it's just a little anger. It's just a little bit of bitterness or a little bit of gossip or a little bit of compromise. And then nothing bad happens that day, so we assume nothing bad will happen. We think perhaps God isn't paying attention and that maybe we got away with it. Well, that is deception. It's like planting dandelions and being confused why you suddenly have a yard full of dandelions, right? The seeds don't necessarily pop out overnight, but they always pop out eventually, especially dandelions. Artificial turf, Mo? Think about how obvious this is in daily life. I mean, it's not rocket science to know why a person is in massive debt when they're standing in a living room built out of Amazon boxes, or to see someone whose friendships are falling apart when they're gossiping about people behind their backs all the time. I mean, no one says, I don't know how I got unhealthy when they're treating vegetables like they're toxic waste, right? We know sowing and reaping makes sense in normal life. But spiritually, we pretend we're the one human in history who planted tomatoes and is waiting for tacos to grow. Trust me, I wish that worked. Paul says, don't be deceived. It doesn't work like that. Paul doesn't just warn us, he also invites us. right? Sowing to the Spirit produces a totally different life. I mean, you sow time with Jesus, you start to sound like Jesus. If you sow forgiveness, the soil of your heart softens. If you show patience, you start to experience peace where you used to feel pressure. If you sow kindness, relationships begin to heal. If you sow generosity, you find your heart loosening its grip on the world. But here's the tension. Sowing always feels slow. We want microwave sanctification, right? I prayed, nothing happens. I read my Bible, I'm still stressed. I forgave and they didn't change. I tried patience and immediately got stuck behind the world's slowest driver, right? We want the harvest today. And God says, wait, give it time. Seeds don't grow in a day. And Paul knows humanity well. He says, let's not grow weary in doing good. Because the truth is, most Christians don't fall away because of blatant rebellion. Most kind of slip away because of exhaustion, right? You get tired of doing the good things. You get tired of forgiving people. You can get tired of loving difficult people. You can get tired of resisting temptation. You can get tired of sowing the Spirit and not seeing the immediate fruit. Some of us, we love faithfully and it feels unnoticed. Oh, we serve quietly and no one says thank you. You pray faithfully and heaven feels silent. Paul says, don't quit. Don't stop sowing. Don't let tiredness and weariness turn into giving up. I don't know what got into me in middle school, but I remember this one time I planted a pumpkin seed in my mom's garden. Every day after school, I would take a spray bottle and go out to my sprouting little pumpkin and gently mist its mint little leaves. And I'd whisper sweet nothings in its ears. I'd love it and care for it and protect it. And guess what? The pumpkin grew huge, right? And then I murdered it for Halloween. But the point is that I sowed what I reaped. And this is God's promise through Paul. At the proper time, we will reap a harvest if you don't give up. The proper time might not be your time. It might not be this year. It might not be this decade. Some harvests don't even come until heaven. But the promise still stands. I mean, we all want God to say, just hang on till January 1st. That's the day everything changes. But God doesn't give those dates. And if He did, we'd sprint towards the finish line and then collapse the next day. And He cares more about who we're becoming with Him than what we're getting from Him. So He gives the promise without the calendar. Paul ends with, as you have opportunity, do good to all people, especially the household of faith. So when you see a moment to do good, do it. When you see a place to plant kindness, plant it. When you see someone hurting, move towards them. When you see someone drifting away, reach out. Even when that person is difficult. Even when that person is a fellow believer who surprised you maybe in all the wrong ways. Because sometimes the harvest in someone else's life comes from the seed that you planted for them, not the seed they planted. Like me getting to eat all my dad's vegetables, right? I didn't plant those, but I got to reap some of the benefits. And here's how we keep going. We fix our eyes on Jesus, right? If we fix our eyes on our circumstances, you get discouraged. If you stare at the slow fruit, you'll get impatient. If you stare at the people sowing from the flesh, you might get jealous or bitter. But Jesus, He sowed perfectly, and He suffered willingly. He endured joyfully. He reaped what we sowed so that we could reap what He sowed, right? That's grace. That's this gospel that Paul's been talking about throughout the whole book of Galatians. And that's how and why we keep going. Because we get to reap the perfection of Jesus. And He reaps what we sowed. So today, if you've been sowing out of the flesh lately, I encourage you to repent, change, put your eyes on Jesus. If you're weary, if you're tired, ask God for fresh strength. And if you've stopped sowing, pick your bucket back up. And through it all, keep your eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of your faith. So this week, I want you to wrestle with a couple questions. First one is, what habits do you have in your life that help you sow from the Spirit's bucket rather than the flesh's bucket? Number two, where do you feel tired in doing good? And how can you not give up? And lastly, who is God asking you to intentionally sow into this week? And what small act of goodness or obedience could you plant there for them? Family, we are coming in for a landing into Galatians. I'm excited to move on to our next book of Ephesians. But for now, remember the gospel, that Jesus died for you, that he lived the perfect life, that our sin was placed on him, that what we sowed, he will reap, so that his perfect life that he sowed, we can reap. Love you guys. Let's sow from the bucket of the Spirit. Thank you for watching. If you would like more content, to connect with us, or to explore more of who we are as a network, visit montagemicro.church.